The outset of Sonic 3's two-player competition mode is Azure Lake, a zone whose music and aesthetic is simultaneously both serene and energizing. The song's characteristic attribute is simplicity, extreme simplicity. Listening to this song throughout the years, it may have never struck you as a particularly straightforward song, but looking at it closely through a music theory lens reveals that the entire song lacks any sense of chordal motion, which is to say, the entire song is played in a single chord. In comparison, remember the Desert Palace video where we looked at the 8, 6, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 chord walkdown? Well, Azure Lake has literally no chord changes. One easy way to detect this is by focusing on the bass line notes. As a general principle, bass lines often act in tandem with chord changes so as to support and accentuate them, and Azure Lake is centered around the anchor note of the 1 scale degree, C, for the entire song. The C rattles on the bass throughout the intro without moving to any other structural pillars. And elsewhere in section A, and in section B too. This lack of complexity isn't a bad thing at all, and this simplicity is also manifest in the main melody's most prominent recurring motif. It's the kind of thing a 5-year-old kid might come up with. The song is in the key of C, and the main melody just walks down from 4 to 1. That's it. Section A has this basic melody appear 4 times in sequence, and each iteration is the same except for the second one, which adjusts its final note from the 1 to the 3. And even that is a minimal adjustment, since ending this phrase on a 1 versus a 3 or even a 5 is not going to make a pronounced difference in tonal effect, since all of those 3 tones make up the basic triad of this song's key. In regard to the concept of song development, as in telling a musical story that suggests musical questions and explores musical answers, what Azure Lake does here would generally be an odd choice because it doesn't provide much of a journey or growth. The melody motif first occurs the basic way, and then an alternate way, and then the basic way 2 more times, and then that's it, end of section. But all this utter simplicity is well placed when you consider where Azure Lake lands in context with the rest of the 2-player competition stages. While Sonic 3 and Knuckles' main campaign tells its sprawling epic, the 2-player levels aren't just a random spattering of levels. They do have their own story to tell. When considering the 2-player levels in order, the first letter in each stage name lines up in alphabetical order as A, B, C, D, E. Azure Lake is Chapter 1, which is the opening segment of the hero's journey. It was another normal day in an idyllic life until... Azure Lake is all about what happens prior to the until. There's a variety of challenges ahead, so with all that turbulence in the forecast, it's fitting for Azure Lake's music to keep things simple, innocent, and uncomplicated. It's got plainly simple melody motifs, no chord changes, and a bass line that just rattles away mostly on the same note for the entire duration of the song. Just listen to that driving, crunching bass line. It perfectly captures Azure Lake's bustling environment of explosive pistons and violently churning machinery. So actually not, because Azure Lake has none of that mechanical chaos. So how does this churning 9-inch nails bass line have any place in the picturesque, natural panorama of Azure Lake? After all, the next closest bass line in the series is that of Death Egg Zone, which is a stressful showdown in a genocidal weapons hub in the sky. Well, this probably isn't anything the composers intended, but some fan interpretations claim that this hint of death and destruction makes sense in Azure Lake's vibe of first-level New Beginnings as a commentary on the repeating cycle of life and death and the inextricable connections between lightness and darkness, happiness and sadness, in the way that seemingly contrary forces are actually complementary and interdependent. After all, the set pieces for Azure Lake's loops and platforms are actually ruins, tattered remnants of previously great structures. So whether or not this profound meaning is embedded in the bass line is subject to personal interpretation, but either way, it's time to address the elephant in the room. The theories that the Azure Lake theme is based on Michael Jackson's 1991 song, Black or White. What is known is that during development, Michael himself proposed that the song Black or White be used in Sonic 3, only to have that idea vetoed by Jackson's lawyers. So while a direct rendition of Black or White never came to be in Sonic 3, is it possible that elements of it were utilized in Azure Lake? This is the supporting melody at the center of everyone's scrutiny. Many have pointed out its similarity to the main supporting melody of Black or White, heard here in an 8-bit rendition. Ultimately, there is not a compelling case that Azure Lake is Black or White, at least not in the same way that we can definitely say that the Sonic 3 credits theme undeniably is Michael Jackson's Stranger in Moscow. The main issue is that the elements of Azure Lake in question are nothing more than basic accentuations of a major triad. To demonstrate, our home base is a C major triad which uses the 1, 3, and 5 scale degrees. And although for this melody we're going to be omitting the 5, but the underlying principle still applies. So in Azure Lake, we start with the chord C sustained 4, or C sus4 for short, which just means to move the 3 up to 4. Right? So that's how we get this part of the song. And then it uses the chord C sus2, which just means to move that 3 to the 2. And that gives us the... So, as they're used here, the sus4 and sus2 chords are really just ornamentations of the original major triad. So compare that to Black or White. Basic accentuations like these are not the kind of thing you could claim compositional copyright on. If there's anything bearing similarities to Black or White, it's Duran Duran's 1982 song, Hungry Like the Wolf. Black or White came out 9 years later, in 1991, with a very similar vocal melody. In the meantime, Azure Lake's song would go on to appear elsewhere in the Sonic universe in Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket handheld console. Oddly, Azure Lake's song is used in that game's version of Sky Chase. It's basically the same song here, but with fewer layered instruments. And for whatever reason, for that 5-year-old kid's melody we discussed before, a minor adjustment was made. In the original Azure Lake, it's like this. But on the Neo Geo version, the concluding C is nudged forward by a 16th note like this. Which in the full context of the song sounds like this. And Sonic Pocket Adventure gets even weirder with its recycled music selections. For example, the last main level is a retread of Scrap Brain Zone crossed with Metropolis Zone, and it's called Gigantic Angel Zone? Okay, and one would hope that the music selection would help ratchet up the tension in preparation for the final boss, but the music for Act 1 is none other than our good friend Desert Palace. It's baffling to decipher what the thought process was here. They also recycled Chrome Gadget's music for Gigantic Angel Act 2, so this is altogether inappropriate because Sonic 3's 2-player competition music, as great as it is, simply doesn't exude the energy of a final showdown. Which brings us to an odd decision in the original song's ending. In the last couple of measures of Azure Lake, there's some kind of beep that is borderline unpleasant. It almost sounds like a mistake, some kind of feedback that was left in the song by someone's oversight. Here's the quote-unquote sheet music of this beep, and for extra effect, the screen will go red when the beep occurs. But it can't just be written off as an error, because this sustained beep ends with 2 quick staccato 8th notes, so there was definitely an intention to put it there. It's a strange thing, the way the main melody ends doesn't really pop out or grab your attention, as if to make way for this inexplicable MIDI feedback. Someday it'd be nice to make it to the real Azure Lake, which is an actual location of British Columbia in Canada. But until then, this song will help to conjure up that imagery. It's Olalilia's top favorite song from the entire Sonic series, a track for which he's logged over 100,000 plays. His personal title for the Azure Lake song is Mountains So Far Away.